Hello everybody and welcome to our third lesson on Floodlands by Marcus Sedgwick. Let's have a look then. So last week we got up to chapter 4 in your class reader. I want us to have a look in more detail at chapter 2 today. So we're going to go back, jump back. Okay. Zoe mentions that she lives in a place called Norwich. So here I've got a map of the United Kingdom. So if you have a look carefully, which part of the United Kingdom is Norwich? What has happened to Norwich in our text? And why do you think this has happened to Norwich? So I just want you to have a think about these questions and look at the map. And can you work out roughly where we are, where Exeter is in comparison? Okay, so you might like to pause it, just have a little think about those questions. I don't want you to write anything down just yet, just have a think. Okay, so quote from the text here: Natasha was there too. That hurt most of all. Natasha was the closest thing she had for a friend. Zoe used to see her when the supply ships came before they stopped coming. So I want you to make a note of these questions. So if you just pause the video and write them down. Who was chasing Zoe and why? Why do you think Zoe left Natasha behind? What do we know about Zoe's parents? Okay, so just want you to have a think about those questions, make note of them, because we are going to listen to chapter 2. So I'm going to read chapter 2. As you listen, I want you to think about the questions and I want you to note down, so write down your ideas in answer to these questions. So when did Zoe's parents realise that they couldn't stay in Norwich? What did Zoe see her dad do for the first time? Why was this? Describe where Zoe is now. So as well as these questions and the one from the previous page, just write them down, pause the video whilst you do that, and then I'm going to go and read 2, the chapter called 2. After the water came, Zoe and her parents had tried for years to stick it out on Norwich, along with another 100 or so. After a while, they realised they were fighting a losing battle and that the sea was not going to stop rising. Zoe's mum was ill too. She seemed to have a sickness that came and went and had lasted for weeks. They'd had enough. Back then, there were still fairly regular supply trips from the mainland. A big ship used to bring as much food as could be spared and anchor half a mile offshore. After rowing in with the supplies and sharing them out, the captain would ask if anyone wanted to leave. Usually there would be 1 or 2 more people ready to go to the mainland. But just when Zoe's parents had decided to get off the island, the boat stopped coming. Instead of the usual 4 or 6 weeks, 3 months went by before it reappeared. Finally, it slipped into view late one night, as if the captain knew there would be trouble. By now, a lot more people than usual wanted to get off the island. There was confusion. It was dark and a terrible fight broke out to get on board the 2 tiny rowing boats. Zoe helped her dad to get her mum on board one of the boats, just as it was pulling away from the shore. It was already dangerously overloaded. 2 men were trying to push each other out of the boat, even as the oarsman took his first strokes. One of them succeeded in shoving the other out. There was only enough time and room for Zoe or her dad to jump in. She saw her dad hesitate. She had never seen that before. He always seemed to know what to do. She could see him torn between getting in the boat with the sick wife or putting his daughter in with her. Zoe looked at the other boat. there was still a little room to be had. She decided to help her dad to make the decision for him. "You go with Mum, she needs you," she yelled. "No," said her dad. "I'll get the other one," she pointed. "I'll see you on board the ship." "No," he said, "you get in the boat." Then the oarsman noticed them. "Only one of you," he shouted, "and make it quick. The ship's already full. We're leaving." He started to pull hard now. "Dad, it's only as far as the ship. I'll see you there." Still he hesitated. Zoe forced her decision. She backed away from the boat. "I'm going for the other one. Get on board, Dad, quick." She saw the relief in her dad's face as he climbed aboard from waist-deep water. "Zoe, we'll go then," he shouted. "Get in the other boat. Hurry, Zoe." Zoe turned and saw with horror that the other boat was already leaving. More people were arriving from the town too, sensing this could be the last chance to get away. They headed to the boat Zoe was making for. She ran across the slimy, muddy shore and tried to climb in over the stern of the boat. Then someone hit her on the chin. She fell back dazed in the mud and watched as the boats moved away towards the lights of the ship. Suddenly, she realised that she was being left behind. Her dad thought she was on the second rowing boat and he would see her on the ship. She knew the captain wouldn't come back for her. With all these people, there would only be another fight. She had to let her dad know now, before the rowing boats reached the ship. She tried to shout, but her voice was weak with exhaustion. Then she thought she heard her dad call to her. "Zoe, are you there?" came his voice through the dark. "Dad, I'm here. Come back. Get them to come back, please." She thought she was yelling, but in reality she could only manage a whisper. There and then, a numbness came to her. Her brain closed in on itself, blocking out the full impact of what had happened. She blacked out, the sea lapping at her legs. That was a long time ago, though she had no idea whether it was 6 months or even a year. It was impossible to tell. She hadn't thought to mark the days, and the weather was so weird you couldn't even be sure what season it was. After waiting a long time for her parents to come looking for her, she began to lose hope. There was no way off, and the supply ship never came again. She guessed life was getting harder even on the mainland. She had been sure her parents would come and find her, but maybe they couldn't get a boat, or maybe they'd never even... She pushed that idea out of her mind, as always, but it didn't change the fact that she was stuck. Then she found the boat. She rowed and rowed, getting weaker all the time, until finally she collapsed over the oars, exhausted. The boat drifted. When she woke, it was dawn. Dawn. "Damn!" she yelled for the whole wide sea to hear. Once again she fought to stop the panic rising inside her. I could be anywhere. She checked the compass. Again, the direction she was drifting in, southwest, could be worse. Even so, there was no sign of any land in any direction. But then, turning on the thwart, she saw it for the first time. She opened her mouth in surprise, but said nothing. Far away on the horizon was a massive, ancient stone building. It had 2 tall towers that stuck into the sky, one at the end and another shorter one in the middle. She couldn't see. Far away on the horizon was a massive, ancient stone building. It had 2 tall towers that stuck into the sky, one at the end and another shorter one in the middle. She couldn't see that there was any land underneath it, and it looked as if it was floating on the sea. Turning back in her seat, she put her head down and started to row towards the floating cathedral. It would be somewhere to stop for a while at least. She needed to sleep and to find some food and water. Maybe she could find out where she was, so she would know which way to go on. Perhaps the ship that took her parents away had stopped here too. Someone might have seen them. But then it looked to be only a little island. Zoe thought there probably wouldn't be anyone left on it. She was wrong. Okay, so thinking about those questions, we've learned a lot more about Zoe and what happened to her parents. So have a think, make sure you've wrote down your ideas. And now I'd like you to reflect on what we know about Zoe so far. Okay, this is an illustration, a picture of Zoe from the text. There she is in a boat rowing along, quite a big boat actually. What are your first impressions of Zoe and why were they? Which words would you select to describe her personality? Again, pause the video and note down all your ideas. And then finally, what I would like you to do with all of your ideas is to draw a silhouette of a character, so like the one on here. So just a simple silhouette. Inside, I want you to write all the information about Zoe's personality and character. So I've put there as an example, she's very determined. On the outside, just facts about her can go around the outside. So we know that she has been separated from her parents. Okay, so if you present that on a piece of paper, if you can manage to upload that onto Dojo so we can have a look at your work, that would be fantastic. Okay. Bye for now.